Guys, you have to see this. Like, this is just the man camp. This place is profound. I am in an area called Oklahoma, something like that, Texas, right outside of Wichita Falls. And it is absolutely wild, the work that is going on here. I mean, you have to see this. Oklahoma Union, Texas is where I'm at, guys. These data centers are going to be, incredible. I am a little bit confused because this is about my fourth delivery to one of the data centers, but everyone that I come to seems to be in areas where there's no labor possibility or nothing.
The pushback against data centers in the United States is growing in a way that I don't think data center companies are going to be able to win against at this point.
This letter, in my opinion, was a threat of what will come if we did not sell our properties.
Do you guys realize what they're really doing?
But I actually don't think that we're freaking out enough.
Average electricity bills rise by as much as 267%.
The whole point of creating the AI data centers is to go against the need for humans.
Amazon is saving billions in both county and state-approved tax breaks.
Get your ass up there. Your ass who understands how bad data centers are for your community.
Our humanity matters, not screens, not data.
Than a quarter of power in the whole state of Illinois.
To ask you to sit down.
Across the country, massive windowless buildings are quietly taking over farmland and residential neighborhoods. They are AI data centers, and local governments are signing off on them behind closed doors. We are told they represent the future, bringing innovation and jobs. But for the people living next to these facilities, the reality looks a lot different. From staggering spikes in residential electric bills to drained local aquifers and eminent domain land grabs, Americans are paying the price for big tech's latest gold rush. Wall Street wants artificial intelligence, but everyday citizens are the ones footing the bill for the power, water, and infrastructure required to run it. Let's look at what happens when the cloud moves into your backyard.
I love a good FAFO moment, and it's even better when it's in my own backyard. A small town just south of St. Louis, Missouri just fired their entire city council. The city council of Festus, Missouri just approved a $6 billion data center in light of people in the city adamantly opposed to it. They had no answers, no transparency, just vibes and corporate promises. City residents blatantly asked the city council, who's running this thing? What is it going to do to water, the land, our property values? And the city council basically said, trust us. When residents took action, they voted out all 4 members of the city council who voted in favor of this data center. Gone. Bags packed. See you later. This is what happens when politicians forget who they work for. You don't get to greenlight billion-dollar projects next to people's homes, ignore their questions, and don't expect consequences. Kudos to Festus. This wasn't a congressional or presidential race. This was a local race. And these residents said, you work for us. Act like it, or you're out.
So I've been watching all of these videos of concerned citizens all over the nation, especially Texas, because that's where I am, but all over the nation, really throwing up their hands, fighting back against all of these data centers going in everywhere. Everyone's concerned, everyone's scared, everyone's fighting back. It seems to me there's few people for it, a ton of people against it, and then the smallest difference being those who aren't paying attention to it yet. And if they were, they would probably have an opinion as well. My question is, we know that Trump is pro-AI. He wants to be the world leader in AI. And I get that. America's always been at a race for everything. The states are really quiet about it. They're not saying anything. And it's coming down to the county commissioners to handle all of it. Now, as y'all probably know, most of our county commissioners throughout the nation aren't experts in law, aren't experts in data centers or power generation stations or any of that. They have mixed backgrounds, and some of them are just average Joes like you and me that are trying to step up and do right by the community. And now they're saddled with passing these proposed data centers all over the nation, all over their respective counties. And why are most of the county commissioners across Texas and across our nation, why are they so pro data center? Now, I know that in most states, the commissioners answer to the state and are about the state's business. They're not really about their constituents. They aren't representing us. But why? What is happening that they're all seemingly pushing and in support of these data centers when the largest portion of the constituents are vehemently against it? Can some of y'all help me out with this? What do you know? What are we missing? Why are they hiding the raw data from us? The real details? Why don't they bring it up at the commissioners' meetings? If you have any insight on this, I would love to hear it. Please educate me, enlighten me. Tell me your theories and thoughts, because I'm stumped. Anyway, bless you and thank you.
AI data centers to now be metered like a utility. Yes, that's the horseshit information we're learning about these data centers that are being built all over the nation. That when it's all said and done, this is going to be a metered utility and you're going to be paying for AI services whether you use it or not. So power companies across the nation are set to start charging you an AI data center fee. This will be anywhere between $8 and $20 a month, depending on where you are. But in the higher concentrations of data center locations like Virginia, you could pay an extra $200 to $300 a month for your utility bills. So not only are you paying for the data centers because companies that use AI are raising their costs and they're passing it on to you, but you're also paying the electricity, the added cost, and you're paying for the water usage, which is very high. And so now in the future, they might charge you a nominal fee in your electricity bill just as a matter of course. And then several of these companies want to start metering their AI services. Meaning if you go online and start making pictures or using AI, it's going to measure your AI usage, even if you don't know a company is using AI, and then bill you later for the opportunity to use their AI horse shit. So you're already paying for certain services, then eventually you'll have to pay more because those services are being used by you, even if you don't know those services are AI. So coming up in the future, a company will be able to actually say, you used our services like Google or whatever it is, but you didn't know it was AI tools, but we're charging you anyway as a metered utility service. So think about that. The government will not classify social media companies as utilities, same with any technological service. But these data centers that are going to be driving the United States in the future and these companies, they'll charge you for that. Also, these data centers eventually will be surveillance centers, and I have to tell you, technocratic neo-feudalism is on the way. I'll tell you what that is in relation to data centers in another video. So how do you feel about having AI used as a metered pay tool, even if you don't know what you're using as AI?
Okay, so you've all seen how Siri and Google have integrated AI, right? We didn't ask for this. It's big tech. They're flipping the switch on us. And now Sam Altman, the owner of OpenAI, is out here saying that the future of AI is going to be metered like water and power. So let me connect these dots for you because this is not a conspiracy. This is literally happening right now in Georgia. Georgia Power froze the base rates for our electric bill. And on paper, that sounds good, but here's what they're not telling you. Local governments are footing the bill for brand new power lines, road upgrades, and fire stations. Meanwhile, data centers are the literal physical buildings running this AI, and they're getting billions in tax breaks. One estimate just ballooned from $327 million to $2.5 billion in breaks. That's your tax money subsidizing the infrastructure that they're going to turn around and charge you to use. So here's what really jams my Glock. These data centers, they are proven military targets now. And we're not talking about some secret bunker in the desert. We're talking about residential areas. In Fayetteville, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, they're running high voltage power lines through over 100 properties, and that cuts through people's yards. We call that eminent domain. And they're taking it for a data center that Microsoft already signed on to use. Monroe County, Middle Georgia, is about to build 2 in residential areas, and they're using eminent domain to run liquid natural gas pipes to fuel these substations. Now, here's the part they're not telling you about why all this is happening so fast. Wall Street just flipped the script on AI. For years, these companies got a pass to lose money chasing the dream, but not anymore. In 2026, investors are demanding something they haven't seen yet, actual profits. But here's the problem. Most of these AI companies aren't even profitable. They're burning cash. So what do? They rush to build the infrastructure they're not even sure that they need, on our dime, with our tax breaks, hoping that the bubble doesn't burst before they figure out how to make actual money. If it does burst, one Georgia regulator put it plainly. He said it's like taking out a mortgage to build an addition for a roommate, and if that roommate moves out, you're stuck with the bill. So we're paying for the grid upgrades, we're losing land to eminent domain, and living next to a target that we never voted on. We're subsidizing companies that aren't paying taxes and aren't making profits. And when this AI gets expensive to run, they're going to put a meter on it and bill you again. This isn't a tech story. This is a your backyard story.
I just spent 6 hours at a city council meeting from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. where they were discussing the 14 data centers they're going to build in my city. And public comment went on for hours and hours and hours of people telling them how badly our community does not need this and how detrimental it will be to the people, the wildlife, the health, the everything, all of the negative impacts of the data centers. We told them and we told them over and over and over again. And then at the end, after sitting here for 6 hours telling them, this is not what we want, they said, you guys didn't say anything about this until right now. And we've been here waiting for you guys to tell us that you think this is a bad idea and you didn't tell us. And then they unanimously voted yes for the data centers in our face. Despite the fact that there was apparently 250 people in person and 260 people, it got up to 300. We met the Zoom capacity at one point, okay? So 500 to 600 people showed up tonight. 500 to 600. And the thing is so many community members have been telling them for the past year that we don't need this. But they said, oh, it's the same couple of you. There just haven't been enough people in opposition. Meanwhile, none of this is transparent. Most of the people in our city don't even know any of this is happening. They don't have access to the news. They're not looking at the news. If people aren't on Facebook, they're basically not getting anything. And the people who have reached out haven't been heard. The people who've emailed the mayor have not been acknowledged or responded to. The people who have given written statements to be on record have not been acknowledged or replied to. Most communications are going unresponded to. And they unanimously voted yes!
The pushback against data centers in the United States is growing in a way that I don't think data center companies are going to be able to win against at this point. Thanks to the internet, word has spread very quickly from towns that have suffered the negative effects of nearby data centers to towns that are worried they might have them in, which has created incredibly strong and tight-knit local resistances to any attempt to install data centers. 3 states in particular are worth looking at: Missouri, Ohio, and Maine. Maine is currently poised to become the first state to outright ban data center construction altogether. The current bill in Maine has passed both chambers of legislature and is now up to the governor to sign, who might veto it because it doesn't include any exemptions, but again, he can get overruled with a 2/3 vote. This measure would ban all data center construction or planning in the state of Maine until November 2027, and even then it would only be allowed with significant guardrails overseen by an in-state council. Meanwhile, Ohio residents just got the green light from the state government to put a measure on the ballot in the midterms to outright ban the construction of data centers in the state as well. As a reminder, Ohio has more data centers than any state in the country. Columbus alone has around 130. Data center developers have been targeting Ohio because it has large amounts of relatively flat land and a lot of water access, which is also why there's a lot of farms here. The problem is there's so many of them now that pretty much every single community in Ohio is starting to pay attention to them and push back against them aggressively. At the same time, the woman who previously was the head of the Ohio Department of Health, Dr. Amy Acton, is expected to win her race for the governorship in November, meaning that if this measure does make it to the ballot, not only will it have the support of the majority of Ohio citizens, it will have the support of the governor as well. That is, if she beats Vivek Ramaswamy. It's likely, but it's not certain. Finally, we have Missouri, in which the towns of Festus and Independence have both lashed out and retaliated against their city councils after local cries to not build a data center were ignored. Both of these towns' residents found out exactly who voted to approve the data center construction despite months of resistance at public meetings, and voted all of them out, replacing them with anti-data center candidates. On top of this, a report from the India Times looking in at the United States says that they expect somewhere around half of all currently planned data centers in the United States to be canceled before the end of the year due to political pushback from communities alone. Here's the thing. AI is not the internet. It doesn't revolutionize how we do things, it just makes us lazier at them. It's not something that you need in order to get things done. And people are recognizing that. People are starting to recognize there is absolutely nothing good that a data center brings to local communities. Even the profits all flow basically out of state straight into the pockets of the companies that own them. Unfortunately, it's too late for these data center companies to keep Americans from figuring that out because now it's everywhere. It will be very interesting to see where this goes because if the ban passes in Maine and if a subsequent ban passes in Ohio, I suspect that a lot of other states are going to follow suit very quickly.
My hometown is building the largest data center in the world. And normally, like when people say something like this, you'd be like, oh, that's a really interesting fact. Did you know that my hometown, with the exception of a single season, has been in a drought since 1997? Do you know what data centers need? Water. The data center that is being built outside of Amarillo, Texas, in Cass County, is going to be 5 miles on each side. 5 miles on each side of the complex. Yeah. And, you know, if Amarillo, Texas were just a place in the panhandle, most people wouldn't care, except it's also a place that gets very, very hot. Sure, you get a couple of years where you're going to get a big snowstorm, it might freeze, whatever, but most of the time it's just super hot and dry. Do you know where Amarillo gets its water? Sure, some of it comes from the reservoir at Lake Meredith, but the majority of the water that Amarillo and the surrounding panhandle uses comes from the Ogallala Aquifer. That's right, an underground water source that stretches across the United States. That's where most of the water comes from because there isn't a lot of groundwater or rainwater. So this data center is going to be pulling water from the Ogallala Aquifer, a data center that uses more power than the entire state of Texas combined times 2. A data center that uses more power than 38 states. And they're going to build it in one of the hottest, driest places in the nation.
Good old Clarksville, Arkansas. Went and done some shady shit. Yeah, here comes the new spot for the data center that these shady didn't tell not one person. I didn't hear anything about it until somebody said it was already a done deal, which is pretty shady to me if you ask me. These should have sent a letter out to every in this town to either say yes or no, and they did not. But you know what? Our bills as shit go up, most likely from this stupid shit, and we're just gonna have to sit here and take the shit. Good old America, huh? Didn't take a vote on it, nothing. I didn't hear a word about it. They probably secretly put it in plan, just like the government does in this shitty world. But we're just going to have to sit here and let this data center just be built.
Morning, living next to the construction of a data center. Just want to film some of the stuff going on here today. It's pretty cold, but you can see like some of the equipment moving around. How would you like to be these people? They didn't get a chance to get bought out. Neither did that farm living across from it. So WKOW News has reached out to me about what it's like living next to this, and they'll be coming over tonight to my house to do an interview. So I'm looking forward to sharing what this has been like and the impact that it has had on my local community. If you have one coming near you, you need to start going to your city council meetings, because they don't have to advertise that a data center is coming. It's going to be a non-disclosure agreement. They're going to decide that behind closed doors. So they might advertise your meeting as a TID about the tax increment district. They might not even explain what a TID is that allows these data centers to be built. You'll have to look that up. That's a whole TikTok in itself, how TID districts work to allow these data centers to come in. You're going to find out it's a data center much after it's too late.
You're arresting him.
What? Chevrolet, note how they let the person positive go over his time. You're shameful. You're shameful. Shameful.
Okay, we just
everybody take a picture of this.
Disgusting.
We need to get through the meeting so that everyone can talk.
Yeah, why don't y'all quit arresting people? Would you make a note that they let their guys speak before go over without arresting him?
So I took a chopper over a data center in Ohio because they are being set up to completely destroy all of our lives while making us pay for the thing that's going to enslave us. But I'm actually not screwing around. I took a chopper, and I hope this pisses off a lot of federal level politicians and billionaires, because so I wanted to fly over this. I'm going to show you the footage. So last week, Thursday morning, decided to take a chopper up and away. Now, the data center is basically halfway between Perrysburg, Ohio, which is a suburb of the greater Toledo, Ohio area in northwestern Ohio, and also Bowling Green, Ohio, which there's another university there. And it's in an area of farmland that no one would ever see and no one would ever care about. Now, this is going in close to I-75 off of an exit, but you wouldn't see it from the highway. And when you go up in the helicopter, it's very obvious where their placement was to do that. It's close enough to all the infrastructure, but farther enough removed. The only people that would notice are the people driving by that probably wouldn't care, or the farmers, or the people in the small rural houses in which, and this is not hyperbolic, this will destroy their lives and property value.
So have you been wondering why they're building these AI data centers? Some of it's top secret. You know that Matador data center they're building in Amarillo, Texas? You know they named it after Donald Trump, right? Well, it's going to supply 10,000 jobs a year until the year 2032. They're going to build 15 individual data centers that's got 500,000 square foot each in them. And they plan on completing 3 a year starting in 2027. The first year, they're going to spend it doing underground utilities, building a wastewater system, water supply systems, and doing ground and grade work. But did you know that it's going to use as much electricity as 8.2 million houses? But that's okay, because they're going to build their own power plant. Did you know that it's going to use 3.3 million gallons of water every single day? Over 1 billion gallons of water a year. Now that power plant that they're building, it's going to have 4 nuclear reactors in it. And it uses a lot of water keeping it cool also. Now they're going to try to save as much water as possible by using recirculatory systems. But the thing is, that water evaporates and you can only recirculate it so much before you have to let the water out, because it gets full of trash, minerals, metal. They don't think that that water is going to be contaminated with nuclear contamination, and they plan on pumping it back into the ground with injection wells. Now, one of the most interesting and disturbing facts about this data center is it's going to be built right next door to Pantex, Nuclear Weapons Assembly Plant. And inside that data center, there's going to be a company called Palantir that's nestled in one of those data centers. Now, you know the U.S. government is trying to build a 100,000 humanoid robot army, right? Well, Palantir is going to be instrumental in AI design and automation of warfare for those robots, because somebody has to teach them how to think and make informed decisions, and somebody has to teach the computer to know when to hit the button.
This is a pretty stunning stat. Half of all of the new demand for electricity in the U.S. in the next 5 years is expected to be driven by data centers. These data centers are the backbone of AI technology. But in partnership with our stations across the country, we saw how they are dividing communities worried about higher utility bills. This was the sound at Laura Evans' home in suburban Chicago last spring, when backup generators kicked in at the data center 1,000 feet from her backyard. And it never goes away.
Never goes away.
Laura tells us the data center emits a droning hum 24/7. And it's not just the noise taking a toll. She says in the last year, her average electricity bill has spiked 23%. And how do you budget when it's changing that much in 1 year?
You can't.
And her electric company warned prices could rise even more, saying one reason why is increased electricity use from data centers and artificial intelligence. ABC News and our owned and affiliated stations spoke with communities across the country grappling with the rapid buildup of data centers to support the AI boom. An analysis from our data team found there are more than 3,000 data centers in the U.S. About 1,200 more are now under construction or soon to be built.
If you're using AI, ultimately a lot of the computation happening there, or at least the storage for that thing, is in a data center somewhere.
It's just a massive construction site. A 2-hour drive from Laura's home, we visited the site of what will be one of the biggest data centers in the U.S. in the small town of Port Washington, Wisconsin. A $15 billion project backed by OpenAI and Oracle that's part of the White House's Stargate initiative. The campus sits on a plot of farmland bigger than 500 football fields and will eventually use about the same amount of electricity needed to keep the lights on in all the homes in Philadelphia.
They'd be putting power lines that are taller than apparently the Statue of Liberty.
Tom Utek is an artist who's lived on this land for 40 years. He showed us where the utility company is planning to build a massive power line on his property for the project. They'll just take over your land.
Yeah, and we'll fight it to the end.
At a town hall this month, we saw how the data center is dividing the community.
We are not going to pay double the amount of our utility bills. Do you understand that?
These are good paying union jobs.
Mayor Ted Knightsky defends the project, saying it will bring jobs and much needed tax revenue. These are huge companies. Are you convinced that they will be willing to invest in this community?
They've been awesome. I mean, they have met every expectation we have given them.
In statements to ABC News, OpenAI and Oracle said they're committed to paying for the energy they use. And the data center operator insists residents and businesses in Port Washington will not see an increase in their electric bills due to the project. Some proponents of this technology say this is the future. What do you say to that?
Build it somewhere else and just make sure it's done right, because this isn't right.
In a statement to ABC News, the data center by Laura's house apologized to neighbors and said it's installed sound barriers. We also spoke with the utility and energy companies in Illinois and Wisconsin. They said they are taking steps to ensure those projects don't shift higher costs to customers. You can see much more of our report, Dataland USA, how AI is changing our neighborhoods. That is tonight on ABC News Live Prime and Nightline. And guys, when we saw these sites, it really was hard to wrap your head around just the scale of it. 500 football fields using enough electricity to power an entire city just in that one place.
This is such an eye-opener.
It's a huge thing when you think about just how quickly these are popping up right now.
Yeah.
Not a lot of regulation around this. These smaller towns are struggling to keep up. And it's a lot of times residents who are saying, what's happening to us?
Residents should not have to pay any of their energy bill shouldn't go up.
All of the neighbors we spoke to said, just don't put it on us.
What is the push for AI? Why is that the focus right now? Why isn't it high-speed rails? That would benefit so many people across the country. It would change the face of the country if people seriously could go from New York to Chicago on a train in 3 hours. It would change how jobs would work. It would change how entertainment would work. It would increase domestic tourism to new heights because people could get around for cheaper than planes. Because, you know, planes use a lot of jet fuel and a lot of electric rails use electricity and magnetism. Why is the push for AI and AI data centers? Why is that the infrastructure. It doesn't actually benefit anyone. It doesn't benefit our lives. In fact, it impacts our lives negatively because data centers put a major strain on our electric grid, and it's raising people's electrical bills and utility bills by $200 or $300. It's insane. Why the AI push? Why the push for data centers when it's literally sucking water, clean water, out of our system and using chemicals so that we can't recycle it in a lot of the data centers? Why is that the push instead of sustainable infrastructure, instead of green energy, instead of things that actually help us build our culture, build our society, build the United States? I just have a lot of questions. Why are they focusing so much on AI? It's like a manufactured need. Nobody needed this. Nobody wanted it. I'm being forced to use it anytime I do a Google search or whatever. I didn't ask for this. Google was fine before. So I just don't understand why they can't do anything to help people, but we can jump through all these hoops to build data centers and AI. It's weird and it doesn't make sense.
I don't think everybody is mad enough about these damn data centers. Because do you guys realize what they're really doing? Not only are they giving tax breaks for data centers, they're also passing off the amount of, it takes up so much electricity, so much water, so much resources. So all of the money that it's going to cost for these companies to be running these data centers, that's getting passed on to the residents of Michigan, okay? We're gonna be having increased, and anybody else that has a data center near them. Your electricity bills will be increasing because for some reason, can somebody explain this to me? If you guys are gonna destroy our world, our earth, can you at least pay? Can you at least pay? Like, that's the bare minimum. Like, I'm not okay with y'all doing it, but taking my money on top of it, like, damn.
So I've just learned that they are going to be building a data center near where I live. And I'm sort of freaking out about it. And I know a lot of people are freaking out about data centers right now, but I actually don't think that we're freaking out enough. I think we need to start thinking about data centers like mines. Like if a mine was going up the street from where you live, you'd probably be freaking out. But because we're calling them data centers and there's like this sort of futuristic kind of optimism surrounding them or something, we're just like willing to accept this incredibly invasive and destructive technology. For some reason, this is just like really popular within the government of my area. Like 8 out of 9 counselors just agreed that this was a great thing and just greenlit the rezoning application immediately. The data center near me is apparently not going to be used for AI and crypto uses, but like, how are we supposed to know if that's true? And is there any kind of way of ensuring that they don't just change it to AI or crypto use in the future? The predictions and the estimations that they are basing this approval on is just stuff that the company has said. The company that built the data center that's going near where I live has built another data center that has reportedly gone way over the estimates that they gave to the city that they built their data center in. It just feels like we're all stuck in this Ponzi scheme and nobody asked to be a part of it, but suddenly our water bills and electricity bills are going to be contributing to it without us even being consulted. All this physical infrastructure is being built on this speculative hype of AI. Going to destroy the environment. We are going to use a ton of energy to potentially see the benefit of this technology that so far doesn't do anything cool. Like we're gonna destroy the entire environment and everything for ChatGPT to write a resume? And the worst part for me is that we are throwing like billions and billions of dollars at these data centers when there's so many other very real problems that could use that money right now. How is this the thing we're doing with the billions of dollars that we have? I don't get it.
I'm standing at the formerly proposed site of a massive AI data center that my community of St. Charles, Missouri, stopped from going up on a 440-acre parcel here behind me. Americans living near large clusters of data centers have seen their average electricity bills rise by as much as 267% over the past 5 years. Communities with heavy concentrations of data centers are experiencing some of the steepest increases in energy costs nationwide. Even as household demands remain relatively unchanged, electricity costs all over the nation are through the roof. The massive private corporations funding these AI projects often conceal details about data center construction and energy use, hiding them behind trade secret protections and limiting public oversight. Contracts between data centers and utility companies are typically confidential, leaving residents with little explanation for rising electric bills, which are essentially a guarantee in communities that often never see them coming and are wholly unprepared for their economic and ecological effects. Please understand that this is just covering the cost of home electric alone. The far-reaching health and environmental effects of these data centers we will detail in the series to come. The project here in St. Charles may have been defeated for a single year, but we must forever be on guard for their return, and the company is already looking to move the site less than 50 miles south to Festus, a community even less equipped to deal with the fallout.
How big is the new data center campus they're building in the Texas Panhandle? It's the biggest one in the world. It will use as much power as all of the homes in the entire state of Texas combined times 2. It will use more power than 38 states. Not combined, but it will use more power than all of the power used in any one of 38 different states. The data center campus portion of it is, I believe, 18 million square feet. It will sit on a piece of ground that is 5 square miles. So you can drive by it for 5 miles, make a right turn, and drive by it for another 5 miles. That's pretty big. You know what the wild part is? The company building it has no knowledge of data centers. Nope, not in the data center business. Project Matador. Look it up.
I'm sitting here watching my property through my screen with some cottonwood that blew on it. And I'm very sad. We just got terrible news that more data centers are planned for our city near the same area. And some of the people that I grew up with, some of the teachers that I had when I was a child, they've already sold, and the property is going to be developed. They're working on agreements with the city, and I don't understand how to make people hear us that this is not something we want. We don't want to be data center city. We don't want our high school mascot to be a computer chip. This is my home, and I've worked my entire life to build it, and to have to hand it back at half its value because somebody in $1 billion company thinks they need even more money, and it's a mechanism that's not even going to last. It's not sustainable. These data centers have a value, like a life expectancy of like 20 years. So by the time the TID closes, their tax incentive, and they actually need to start paying back, it's done and it's over and it's obsolete. And now we have this massive crater in our neighborhood, on our farmland, near our lakes. For what? So that a few construction crew members had a job for 4 years? It just reminds me of when my children were little and we had to replace a toilet in the bathroom, and they tried to talk us into a short little toilet because we had kids. No, you don't build a toilet in your bathroom every year for the rest of your life. You're not going to put a once-in-a-lifetime fixture in your home for a temporary issue. These data centers, they're going to give 13 jobs. The second one they want to put in, it's 5 jobs. What are we doing? Oh, my heart is absolutely breaking. I want to show you what happens when they build a data center near your home. They need to put in more power lines, right? And that means they need to widen the road. And they need to widen the road a lot. A lot. Look at the size of this equipment. So if you lived there, you just lost all that property for eminent domain. And where that piece of equipment is right there, that was all thick forest. So all of those trees were cut down and brought out so that they could put up this row of power lines to handle the energy that's going to be pumping in there. And Alliant Energy is right across, right there. You can see. Right there. And it is going to jack up your power bill. So in order to not use as much water in like a closed loop system, which they brag about being less than like 2 restaurants use of water, you have to use a ton of fans to blow that cold air around. And so that requires a ton of energy, and guess who gets to pay for that? The taxpayers.
The thing that I can't quite square is the data center play. And I know you've talked to some of my friends about that in the past. I look at a data center that's $10 billion, right? First of all, there haven't been any exits above $4 or $5 billion. You haven't seen comp, so that worries me quite a bit. Then I see large technology companies, the largest companies on the planet with $4 trillion market cap, saying, I don't want to own this asset. I don't want to have this on my balance sheet. So I ask, why? Why doesn't the largest company in the world want to own its own asset? That is very, very important to them, right? This is the AI business is everything for them today, for the large hyperscalers. And so they're saying, no, you build it, you finance it.
So y'all may have seen this study going around about AI used more water this year than water drank from bottles. What they failed to mention was that was globally. AI used more water this year than humans drank water from water bottles globally. If you have to have a robot create, you didn't create anything. No, it helps me write my book and keeps me in line. You didn't write a book. You didn't. Nope, you edited words from a robot. Shut up. And you're doing it at the expense of clean drinking water. Well, no, but you scroll on TikTok and that uses, no, those data centers are not the same as AI data centers. Don't play dumb. Actually, you're not playing dumb. Data centers that use for like TikTok and for Facebook, the stuff we've been using, that is different than a data center for AI.
Get your ass up there. Your ass who understands how bad data centers are for your community, then the old people who are the only people who go to these meetings are going to vote yes because they hear it makes jobs. If you live in a city, this is especially important. I need you to go in and be the most annoying person in the room. This will not create jobs. This will pollute our air and water. This is the ugliest building I can think of.
So this was a very shitty way for me to find out that in Eatonville, Florida, right, which is very close to me, it's just outside of Orlando, which is a predominantly black community, right, historically disproportionate, like a poorer community. In Eatonville, they are building a very large data center. And not only that, but they are close to completion. They are set to be completed by Q1 of next year. And I hadn't heard anything about it because I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I also don't go to Eatonville. I used to go to Eatonville when I used to be vegan like 6 years ago because there was a very good vegan Jamaican food place there, and it's literally been 6 years. But I just found out that, of course, they're building a data center in a very disproportionate community. And you want to hear something else that's fucked up about it? You want to hear how ghoulish this data company is? You know what they did to manipulate the people of Eatonville and manufacture their consent to build this data center there? They promised the people of Eatonville free Wi-Fi in exchange for this data center being built. So they manipulated these people. They took advantage of a poor community, promising them a utility for free to build this data center that will ultimately cost them more in what it will do to their air quality, the quality of their water, the energy consumption, and the unsustainability of this place. It will vastly outweigh the benefit of having free Wi-Fi. So they manufactured consent to build this fucking place by taking advantage of a poor community. And I found out about this by reading it on Reddit when I was reading more about the data center being built. And people on Reddit were praising this like it's a good thing. So many people are so detached from the realities of like what these AI data centers actually do to these communities. And that's just, when I read that, dude, I swear to God, we don't hate AI enough. We don't hate AI enough. I hope this place catches on fire. Like, you know what, for real, I don't know. I'm going to be on the lookout now for data centers that are being proposed to be built in my area, and if there are any sort of like meetings on this shit, fucking promise that I'll be there. I will be there pitching a fit. Because this shit is terrible, man.
Man, I really hope my small town brings one of these big AI data centers, and it'll bring a ton of jobs. It'll bring so many jobs if they just bring a new Amazon AI warehouse. What I want you to think about is if you think that, one, they're going to trust unintelligent, uneducated, non-skilled workers around all of their multi-billion-dollar machinery, first of all, you're wrong. Second thing, not going to create as many jobs as you think. The whole point of creating the AI data centers is to go against the need for humans. So they will have custodians. They'll probably have some engineers that probably don't live locally at all and have to come from 45 minutes away, or they're on call. But I don't think people realize that anywhere we're going with AI, coupled with the current state of end-stage capitalism, it's not going to be a positive thing for humans. Nothing we're doing in our decision-making is good for humans under the current end-stage capitalism. And we're also simultaneously going down the AI path, which coupled with capitalism is not going to prioritize humans. So no, it's not going to bring as many jobs as you think, and you are probably not going to get one of those jobs unless you want to be sweeping the floors or if you have the education to be an engineer. Just my opinion.
Behind me is the start of what will be the largest cluster of non-NVIDIA chips in the world, in Amazon's newest data center mega project, now fully operational here in New Carlisle, Indiana. These 7 completed buildings replaced empty cornfields fast, in about a year. Once completed, the project will connect hundreds of thousands of Amazon's own custom Trainium 2 chips and soon Trainium 3 across the U.S., entirely devoted to running AI workloads for a single customer, OpenAI rival Anthropic. Backed in part by Google and some $8 billion from Amazon, Anthropic's chatbot Claude has exploded in popularity, especially among coders.
So they're already running about 500,000 chips in Indiana today. And in fact, it's going so well that they've actually doubled down on that order. And we expect jointly we'll be running more than 1 million Trainium 2 chips by the end of this year.
We got the first on-camera tour inside what Amazon's dubbing Project Rainier. And it's coming online amid hundreds of billions in AI infrastructure build-out announcements. Microsoft has a new data center in Wisconsin. Meta has one in Louisiana. OpenAI's made a flurry of deals with NVIDIA, Oracle, AMD, and Samsung. Compute demand is at an all-time high. But some are concerned about a possible overbuild.
I think they're still building on a proposition that we may not end up seeing be realized. It's just crazy how much building is going on.
Here in Indiana, this is just the first phase, with 2 more campuses under construction now for a total of 30 buildings on some 1,200 acres. It'll consume 2.2 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power more than 1 million homes, and millions of gallons of water, which has some local leaders and residents worried. Amazon is saving billions in both county and state-approved tax breaks.
It's just difficult to keep losing farmland, but you just do the best you can and make the best of the situation.
As Amazon plans out more facilities for Project Rainier in Mississippi and beyond, we sit down with top leaders to ask how this Indiana site came together so quickly, where all that power will come from, and how Anthropic will train its AI here entirely without NVIDIA.
Everyone in Ohio should be worried right now because they would like to put more data centers in our state. Do you know that one large AI data center, just one, uses 5 million gallons of water per day? Put that on a scale that many can understand. That is enough to give 38 million people 1 bottle of water per day. Anybody remember a little lesson on forever chemicals, the PFAs? So when an AI data center has to cool with water, that water has to go somewhere, and it's going to go into your streams, your rivers, your ponds, your lakes, and that is going to cause health issues. It is going to cause respiratory issues. We're talking about mass pollution because carbon dioxide is going to go into the air. PFAs are going to go into our water. It is going to harm your animals, you, our crops, anything you can think of. One data center is equivalent to 100,000 people using electricity for 24 hours nonstop, just in one single day. We do not have the capacity for that. Don't forget about the electric bill, because they're saying that the data centers will pay 85% of their electric costs up front. But here's the kicker. If the consumers don't match the projected need per se, it falls on us to pay for these data centers and their electric, which makes our electric bill go up higher. And guess what? Our electric bills have already doubled. What do you think that they're going to do? By the end of 2020, our electric bills will be so unaffordable that they'll be higher than house payments. I get that data centers are needed, and I get that people want to use AI and it's the future. But at what cost? Your health? A place where you can't live because it's so expensive? Forever chemicals that you can't get rid of that cause cancer and other health issues? Polluted water? Air that you can't breathe? Live in Ohio? We need to fight back. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is our future. Y'all have a good day.
If you have those 5 buildings,
sir, excuse me,
the power requirement for those 5 buildings are gonna be bigger than a quarter of power in the whole state of Illinois.
I need to ask you to sit down.
The developer did not honor their end. And I have all the contracts, emails, and texts to prove it. This letter, in my opinion, was a threat of what will come if we did not sell our properties.
This development has directly impacted my son's life. His bus stop and the park where we used to play and walk to, it's gone. His friends have moved away, leaving him feeling alone.
Now you bought houses on Foster Avenue. Are you coming across the street next?
Wooddale, Illinois. Around 70 families were ordered to vacate their homes, while another 8 families were forced to stay behind to endure what happens when a neighborhood goes abandoned.
They dropped grenades 100 feet from my house.
But this didn't happen recently. It was almost 6 years in the making, and it was a sign that the world we grew up in would never be the same again. Something monstrous was coming, and once let loose, there was no way to stop it.
As someone that works in the power industry, we are putting the cart before the horse with these data centers. Not only did nobody ask for them, we don't have the infrastructure to run them, to build them. Our power infrastructure in the United States is falling behind. We continue to decommission our older coal-burning power plants without putting anything really in place of them. We keep decommissioning without building anything to take the place. You know, there's not enough solar farms, there's not enough wind turbines, there's not enough combined cycle gas power generating stations to pick up the slack from all of the coal burners that we are decommissioning. That's not to say that we should just stick with coal. Like, I'm all for innovation and building that new infrastructure, but they're just not doing it. They're not converting enough. They're not building enough new. And, I mean, we've turned away from nuclear as well. And nothing we're doing is going to keep up with the demand of these data centers. So my thing is, if you can protest that in any way, call somebody, write your representative, or just like stop taking data center jobs. If you're in the trades, just drag up, just stop taking them. Like, we've got to look out for ourselves, the working class, and sometimes that means not taking the job.
My name is Catherine Haushalter, and I'm from Saline.
I live on a small 60-acre farm that borders the property that sold to AI Oracle. And I promise, with everything in me, I will stay and fight. I will not sell. I'm a little person who just wanted to live a quiet country life and raise my 5 small children and never have to fight again a day in her life. But here I am. I went to Afghanistan, and I can tell you nothing makes you more anti-war than going to war. But as hard as I fought there, they have no idea how far and how hard I'm going to fight for Celine, for my family, and for my home. If AI is so great and it's so beneficial to our community, you don't have to sue your way in. You don't have to force it. Our resources are at risk. Our water is at risk. It's not just, I don't want them in my backyard. Of course I don't. I want to fight for all of you, and I need you. So stand with me and let's fight this. Our humanity matters, not screens, not data.
Ohio just admitted they're okay with lowering water quality on purpose. The Ohio EPA just released a draft general permit for data centers. And in their own words, they admit a lowering of water quality is necessary for social and economic development. So let me ask you, should the state be allowed to approve water quality degradation without asking citizens first? Let me know in the comments, yes or no. This is a blanket permit. It streamlines approvals statewide instead of forcing project-by-project scrutiny for each facility. When you streamline it like this, citizens lose leverage. There's no real consent up front, and often you don't even know who's behind these projects until they're already moving. Economic growth that requires sacrificing public health isn't progress. The health of Ohio citizens should never be for sale.
What we are watching is a massive transfer of wealth and resources under the guise of technological progress. Companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are racing to build these multi-billion-dollar AI facilities, but they aren't the ones absorbing the true costs. It is the local communities who are watching their utility bills skyrocket by 20, 30, or even 200% to subsidize the immense strain on the power grid. It is the rural towns watching their local water supplies get tapped dry to cool endless rows of servers. Elected officials at the city and county levels are trading away our resources, handing out massive tax breaks, and ignoring the very real concerns of their constituents. The push for artificial intelligence is happening at blinding speed, but the people left to deal with the noise, the pollution, and the financial burden are making it clear they have had enough. Are you seeing these data centers popping up in your own town, and have you noticed an unexplained jump in your electric bill lately? Let me know what you are seeing on the ground in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.